War Eagle, and welcome to another edition of Ever to Podcast. This is our regular show at E2C Network, where our goal is to catch you up on the latest Auburn news, topics, discussions, things that you need to be aware of when you're out and about discussing and sharing in the Auburn experience, which to us is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family. The easy way to say it, though, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us. And what we're going to be doing today here on episode 98 of Ever to Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kyle Loomis, bringing you today's episode on May 1st, 2026. Happy May to all of you out there, and I hope you've had a great month of April being an Auburn Tiger. Plenty to talk about as we start this month, though. We're going to round you out from the week that was, from Monday to about Thursday, since you're listening to this, and it's coming out on a Friday. So obviously some of the other news may be dropping in between all these things, but hopefully this catches you up on everything for the week. We'll go through the different sports categories, some other things as well that are pertinent in the Auburn experience. At the end of this, we'll give you your calendar of events that you need to be aware of when you are paying attention to this weekend, especially for the Auburn sports. So let's go ahead and jump right into it right now. We'll start with baseball, as we've been doing a lot for the spring sports since they are prominent right now. And after another successful week for Auburn baseball, winning another SEC series, playing very strong right now, deservedly so in the rankings, they find themselves completely in the top 10. So a consensus top 10 team across the 5 different rankings that are out there, but even more than that, a consensus top 8 team. So 6, 7, 8, 8, and 8 are where they fall in those different rankings and categories. You're starting to see them all kind of at least get in the same window of opportunity. It's no longer you have someone ranking them at 6 and one at 12 or something like that. Everybody's starting to kind of get an idea of what this team's strengths are and what their capability is. And so you're seeing that finally again. Looks very familiar to what we saw at the start of the season early on when they were pretty much always in the top 10 and really pushing hard to stay in that top 5 category as well. But for now, consensus top 8 for Auburn baseball coming out of last weekend and going into this weekend of play. You then have some awards start getting handed out after the amazing week that it was for Auburn baseball. A couple for the SEC. Eric Guevara was named the SEC Player of the Week, rightfully so if you've seen the way he's been hitting the ball. Not to be outdone, though, co-freshman of the week for the SEC, Ethan Bingaman, with a Vol player. If you saw what he did, you understand why he is SEC co-freshman of the year, not the year of the week. Some outstanding offense being played out there alongside some pitching that's been pretty good all season. Feels like all things are starting to come together, and obviously a little bit of patience went a long way in the middle of the season where there's a little bit of a lull. We're talking about the individual stats right now, but certainly those are worth bringing up. Speaking of, here's some more things, some more national awards and things like that to be aware of outside of the SEC. They're nationally recognized, and you've got a couple of people in the NCAA lineup of the week for Baseball America National Team of the Week. Ethan Bingaman, Eric Guevara, all of these are going to be for them. National Hitter of the Week goes to Eric Guevara for the NCBWA. Perfect Game gives their National Freshman of the Week to Ethan Bingaman. So clearly Ethan, clearly Eric stole the show this past weekend. Obviously, they had a lot of help, but certainly they were the ones to keep your eye on if you were watching all throughout the weekend. Let's move on to the week ahead, though. As Auburn heads out to College Station, we have our game time set, so a little bit different than what you've gotten used to the last couple of weekends. There will be a nighttime game on Friday, as there always tends to be, 7 p.m., I believe this would be Central Time, I think is what they're probably listed on here. Saturday, the 2nd, 2 p.m. So no night game. It'll be a midday game for the game 2. And then the potential rubber match or clincher or salvager, whichever you want to call it, 1 p.m. on Sunday, usually about where those things typically sit on Sunday afternoons. So that is what you have to look forward to in terms of game times for Auburn baseball. Softball, again, this is just not a great stretch for Auburn softball in year 2 of the Malveaux. They have already dropped the first game of the LSU series, which is their last SEC series of the year, I believe. So not a great start there. It is going to be a little bit of a backslide this year, it appears. I would continue to caution you with patience and letting them kind of work through getting this program reset under their way of doing things, and certainly as long as the powers that be decide that they're going to be here and that there's no issues there, I would ask you to continue to support them. But I acknowledge that it's just not going well right now. Again, they dropped the first game of the LSU series and a few more to go to salvage it, but we'll see if they can pull something off like that before everything gets wrapped up. Let's talk about some basketball stuff. One note here for men's basketball. We had a bunch of people that were announced to be signees and things like that, but there's the announcement and then there's the official signee. We've gotten everybody except for one player going into this week, George Kimball III, transferring over from Vanderbilt, and that kind of tray for Sway, I guess. He is officially signed. That's been announced by the staff. Stephen Pearl put some quotes out about that as well. So it looks like all of the major players are locked in for the year. Maybe there's one more out there. Coach Pearl did mention that at an event this week that they would like to find. I'm going to imagine and guess that's in the guard realm or someone that could be utilized as a guard light or something like that. But there's obviously at least a potential for someone else out there to come and be part of the roster. Speaking of signings, for the women's basketball team now, we talked a lot about them on the Auburn Experience, about everybody they retained and that they brought in. One more was added at the beginning of the week from Miami. Jessica Peterson, a 6'3" forward, originally from California, but transferring over from Miami, gets added to that list. And I'm really excited for what they can do in year two with the roster that they were able to keep this time and not have to rebuild completely. And some faces retained that you're familiar with and some brought back over. So go listen to that on the main podcast, episode 170, where we talked about that a little bit, the roster for women's basketball in year two. Probably the biggest news of the week was the introduction of new head coach for Auburn Gymnastics, Ryan Roberts, coming over from Georgia as their co-head coach. And just a little fun fact, not only did he spend time at Georgia, but also Alabama as well. So he ended up with the good guys at the end of all of this. But that intro went out. There's a press conference that we've got available for you through the athletic department on our YouTube channel and Facebook if you want to go check that out. And I would highly recommend you go listen to these because it gives you a good perspective about what to expect. In fact, some of the stuff that he talked about in that press conference has already happened, which is what we're going to talk about right now. His brand new staff seems to be in place, at least the major parts of that staff. He did identify about 3-ish other people that he wanted to bring in, not by name in the press conference, but now we know who all of them are. And there's a familiar name here. Your coaching staff, the team as they're calling in this post, obviously Ryan Roberts, head coach. Aja Sims Fletcher, who's going to be the associate head coach. She also has spent some time at Alabama as well. Adam Duncan, who comes, I believe he was part of club gymnastics out in Texas, is going to be an assistant coach as well. And then let's be honest, the more exciting one, because there's some cool ties back to Auburn. You're very familiar with there, Sophia Groh, who now goes by a different last name, Davila, because she married an Auburn cheerleader, which is pretty awesome. A little Auburn power couple going on there. She's back as an assistant coach, and that's really awesome. A great way for her to connect with as a former gymnast here at Auburn very recently. So that's really cool that Ryan Roberts brought her back in. And I think it's a smart move when you can have people on your staff, no matter what sport we're talking about, that know the Auburn way, that know the Auburn people, that know the Auburn program very well. And clearly she would. And she's just a beam of light. Like every time she was out there competing, she was just smiling all the time. So it's going to be great to have her on staff. I'm excited about that. It was a very nice ad by Coach Ryan Roberts. So off to the races for him and full swing ahead. It looks like he's doing very well in that regard. We've got a lot of potential things coming up here in a lot of the smaller sports, or at least quote unquote smaller sports, as people try to say sometimes. Some quick signings here. Auburn Swim and Dive signed a lady out of Ukraine, Nika, and bless you, I'm not going to butcher your last name. I'm just not going to do it. We'll learn it in time. But Nika, welcome to the Auburn team, and welcome to Swimming and Diving out of Ukraine. Glad to have her here as part of the future of that program. We got some golf and tennis stuff coming up here. Obviously, we're moving into postseason play for all of those. Women's golf started the week off being ranked at number 7 on scoreboard as they get ready for some postseason competition. And they now know where they'll be competing, and that is going to be in the Simpsonville Regional, which is essentially Louisville is going to be the host team. They will be the number 2 seed in that regional. So obviously they're expected to potentially be one of the teams that makes it out of that regional into the finals. It's not a guarantee, but that's going to be in competition up in Simpsonville, Kentucky, May 11th through the 13th. The other teams that you're potentially going to be seeing there are going to be number 6, Arkansas, number 8, Iowa State, number 19, Ole Miss, Houston, Virginia Tech, I should say, Kansas State, Indiana, Charleston, Xavier, Western Kentucky, Murray State. Auburn obviously has got compete against all these and can't take anything for granted here, but certainly being seeded number 2 there is a good sign for hopefully we'll see seeing more of them in postseason play. Speaking of that, let's keep moving on through some of these other things here as well. You've got men's tennis, where their postseason play is just about to get started here. They announced this week, or they found the announcement out, that they were going to be part of the Baylor Regional out in Waco as the number 2 seed as well, there for their postseason play in early NCAA regional play. For them, and they'll be taking on Santa Clara, I believe. So you've got that, and obviously some rankings came out as well in the ITA ranking. They're number 22 overall, the Auburn men's tennis team currently right now. Probably the story you definitely heard was Auburn women's tennis being picked as a host regional as the number 2 overall seed. Now, it's going to be a little bit contradictory when you see some rankings here in a second. You have rankings, and then you have the way they were seeded. Interesting. I'll just say that. Very, very interesting. But number 2 overall seed is definitely something to be excited about. They'll be hosting at the Yarborough Tennis Center all weekend. So if you can, go out there and support the ladies in this historic season that they're having right now as SEC champions, as was how they got this started with their postseason. And here's what I would mentioned. They are ranked number 1 in the 2 main polls that we've been discussing all season. The UTR Sports, which they've been ranked number 1 previously, and then ITA, which they have done recently as well. They're up there. So in both those major polls, they're number 1, but yet they're the number 2 seed in the tournament. Make it make sense. Now, we're not going to talk about that they lost to the number 1 seed previously, but you see what I'm saying there. If you're ranked number 1, maybe you should be the number 1 seed. I don't know. Kind of makes sense to me. Another little quick thing for them, for women's tennis, as part of all the success that they're having right now, they announced a signing of a brand new commitment for next year. Ashi Das, I think is how you say her name, from Auckland, New Zealand, will be part of Auburn women's tennis going forward. So just a big, big week for that program. Track and field, they wrapped up their Tiger Track Classic last week, and as I've always been saying, they've done this great job with this graphic, giving you a round out of what happened. They had 5 event wins, 3 Auburn top 10 marks, 1 freshman school record, 9 personal best marks, and 20 seniors recognized as part of a senior day event there. So good recap set up there with some things coming up for them this coming week. Also for the men's track side, they've come in ranked in the USTF CCCA, the longest acronym ever, rankings. Number 7 overall for them as they get poised for postseason. Not too far away for them as well right now. SEC Freshman of the Week honor on the women's track and field side for Sophia Manzoni. She had the Auburn freshman record for the javelin twice at the Tiger Track Classic, and that's pretty awesome to pull that off right there. So SEC Freshman of the Week honors go to her. Congrats. For football news, obviously with spring ball wrapped up, there's going to be a little bit less than this, but there's still some things that are coming out and getting excited about here. With recruiting now kind of picking up steam a little bit, there was another announcement of a commitment this week. That is a second Moore in the 2027 class. Jalen Moore this time. Interior offensive lineman is what most people will list him as. Committed to Auburn out of Atlanta, Georgia, Creekside High School-ish areas. You're going to see him having other schools like Georgia Tech, Alabama, Pitt were potential landing spots for him. So it's obviously not official yet until they sign on the dotted line, but obviously excited to see Jalen Moore being part of the 2027 class for Auburn football. We already mentioned it with Coach Pearl earlier in this segment, but there was the Regions golf tournament that happened in Birmingham every single year, and it's a great opportunity for them to meet with the media, stuff like that. Coach Gullish wasn't there to participate in golf, but he did meet with the media, made the rounds, had some great moments with fans and opposing fans and things like that. So go watch some of those clips and things like that. He was asked again about this obsession some of the media have with him doing this Iron Bowl segment, which is just like, can we talk about something else at this point? But definitely I would recommend you go see some of the clips that Auburn put out, others put out from their opportunities to interview him. We've got some Auburn soccer news. Some players to watch lists are coming out right now. This one is from the 2026 USL W League player to watch for Auburn, Grace Ivy. She's participating with Sporting Jacks, or at least previously did, I think is what it is. But coming up into this next year, that is definitely one to watch for you all for Auburn soccer. We've got some pro news as well for you all. Certainly, if you listened to last episode 170 of the Auburn Experience, we went into detail with the NFL draft, the signees, camp invites. We got one more this week that finally made their way onto a roster. Signee for the Baltimore Orioles, Jaquez Robinson, defensive back for Auburn, is now going to be with the Ravens. So congrats to him. We'll add him to the list of undrafted free agents that are going to have to fight for their opportunities. But certainly we've seen some great stories come out of that in the Auburn space. And this is just a quick note in the pro space about one singular game. Houston Rockets, as of this moment, as I'm recording this, are still competing in the NBA playoffs versus the LA Lakers. Jabari Smith had a great game to help them stay in the hunt for that, getting to game 6 in game 5. 22 points, 6 for 13 from the field, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks. Went really strong for them in that game. So nice to see Jabari doing some big things on frankly, the most important stage, which would be the playoffs, right? A little quick note on the academic side. As most of you have heard us talk about before, Human Sciences is getting a brand new facility on the site of their previous headquarters, which was the old Spidal Hall, which is no more. But as they're continuing that, they're doing a little bit of a thing you see often do for the future site. They'll lay bricks with names in it. You can take part in that, be part of the Barbara Drummond Thorne Academic Research Facility brick campaign. BricksRS.com/donor site/AUCHS, Human Sciences, obviously. But check that out if you want to donate to that and be part of the future of the College of Human Sciences at Auburn University. That's something you can definitely check out. So that's all our news for the week. As I told you, we're starting to kind of get a little bit more compact with our news as everything winds down for the year. But certainly always plenty to talk about. Let's get you your calendar of events for the weekend, things that you need to be aware of in the sports world, especially for Friday the 1st, Saturday the 2nd, and Sunday the 3rd of May. For Friday, track and field will be participating at 2 different places, East Coast Relays and the Torrin Lawrence Memorial. The East Coast Relays, I believe, in Jacksonville, Torrin Lawrence and Athens was where those are going to be hosted. We mentioned these already. Postseason time for Auburn men's and women's tennis. Women's tennis will be hosting at the Yarborough Center. We'll take on Bryant in the first round there for their host regional. And then the men's tennis side will take on Santa Clara as the number 2 seed in the Baylor or Waco regional out there in Texas on Friday. Softball and baseball will be in action. Softball game 2 for LSU. Baseball will begin their series with Texas A&M that evening. Saturday, more of the same. Track and field still at both of those events. Men's and women's tennis, it's dependent upon do they continue. If they were to win on those days, they would move on to take on the winner for women, Miami or North Florida. If you go chalk, Miami being the higher seed there potentially. If that all goes chalk, like I said, men's tennis, same thing. If it goes chalk, it'll be the winner of Baylor and Tulsa, but that would expect to be the host site of Baylor. So those are your potentials for Saturday. Not guarantees, but potentials. Softball will wrap up their series with LSU. Baseball game 2 for Texas A&M, and then finally on Sunday, it's just baseball. Hopefully, we're talking about wrapping up a win there in Texas A&M, but it's going to be tough out there, one of the toughest places to play in college baseball. So that'll do it. That'll catch you up on the news. All the information, calendar of events in the Auburn Experience. Thank you for tuning in here at episode 98 of the Ever to Podcast. That was really redundant at this point. The reason I'm stumbling over that is I'm questioning whether I got my numbers right at this point. It'll be right in the title regardless. We'll just call it 98 from this point. 90% sure I got that right. That's the stuff that you get here when you come to these shows. I'm just kind of candid with you guys sometimes. With that being said, a couple of reminders for you. If you have any questions, comments, topics, want to reach out to us, email is a great way to do that, etcnetwork@gmail.com. DMs are open most places on social media. If you need to reach out to us that way. And as always, we want to remind you as we leave you, the Auburn Creed asks you to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. We ask you to do the same. War Eagle.